With the new Bigger and Bolder update to Terraria, they added a lot of new things, including all of these secret seeds. Now, I've played this game for hundreds of hours, but mostly before the secret seeds were added, so I never played with any of them. So to make up for that, I decided I would beat the game on a drunk world with every secret seed on Master Mode. Now don't get me wrong, it's no Zenith seed, it's no major challenge, but it did make for a very interesting playthrough. And to start off, I want to clear up two things. One, I just did a run like this, but only with the new secret seeds on a normal world, not drunk, and only on expert. So I already had a general idea of what to do and how it would go. And two, I technically did not use every secret seed. I used every seed besides the double daring danger seed, where 2 giant dungeons spawn that take you through each biome. I didn't want this to affect the run in the way it does, so I went without it. But with that said, it's time to start the run. Now, one of the most glaringly obvious things is that we are not on the surface like usual. We are deep underground. Many of these seeds will completely change the way you need to play the game, as one of the earliest issues here is not having access to wood. But before I try to make any progress, I will be setting up the main rules I had for myself. Since I don't have all the time in the world, I would be playing this on Journey just to reduce the grindy parts and make some things just go faster. But I wouldn't be abusing the Journey powers. I would never set the difficulty lower than Master, the enemy spawn rate would never go below 1, I would never use God mode or increased placement range, and I would never pause time to make night bosses easier. Basically, I used Journey to have access to duplication, so I didn't have to spend time doing the same thing over and over until I got what I needed. To start, I just got some money and duplicated it so I had infinite. Honestly, one of the best parts about playing in Journey mode for me. Then, the goal from here is to find chests, as they will have 2 of the most important parts of this run, at least at the start. One of the possible items in this world are the Spectre Goggles, which allow you to see blocks coated in Echo Paint. This is so important for this stage of the game. One of the seeds, Invisible Plane, usually coats the entire world in this paint, making it all invisible, but it seems that in combination with the others, it has different effects. In this world, Echo Paint applies to traps, and since we have the More Traps Please seed on, there are a lot of those. Most notably, every chest, Heart Crystal, and Mana Crystal are all surrounded by spikes. This makes looting much more difficult as we can't easily get the chest for Spectre Goggles, or Life Crystals for more health. But without anything we can do for now, I decided to keep moving forward, and then I get my first stupid death of many. Moving in a different direction, I find another chest, and here I get one of the biggest items for the early game, the Extractinator. In my other run, I found the Chlorophyte Extractinator randomly in a house, and I hope to find the same in this world, but the normal one is just fine. The only difference is that I would get only up to Platinum instead of Titanium and Adamantite. But this would allow me to get a ton of ores without mining randomly, which would be difficult in this world not only because it is Master Mode Hard Mode where everything practically one-shots me, but also because the Planetoid Seed makes a large portion of this world just open space. Something you may have noticed is that I've been carrying the explosives I found before on me instead of duplicating them, and also just picked up and did the same with bullets. This is since I do not have a good weapon, and my plan was to get a mini shark from the arms dealer with explosive bullets which I would need the demolitionist for. It wouldn't be great, but it sure would be better than an iron short sword. Soon after, I grab a quick chest, some stone, and then promptly die right after that. Upon respawning, I bought some purification powder from the Dryad and then some other items of which I would proceed to never use. Spotting some more life crystals, I go to get them and am met with an unfortunate death. But as I sit, contemplating my decision to try this run, I notice the giant amount of slush next to the life crystal, and immediately go back to get it. If I can get 200 slush and duplicate it, I would have access to every gem and all ores up to platinum and gold. This would be much better than my current situation, however, still not great. But having armor, even just platinum, does help, especially with my confidence to explore more areas. After getting the slush, I set up some simple crafting stations and the extractinator, and sit there until I get enough to duplicate what I need. Which takes a very long time. With my new platinum armor, I decided it was time to use one of the seeds that actually make this experience much better. The seed, Royale with Cheese, makes it so each team, red, green, blue, yellow, purple, and no team, all have separate spawn locations. So for me, I can use this as a way to teleport to random locations in the world, and I just have to hope that some of them are beneficial to me in some way. And on red spawn, I find an enchanted sword shrine, which wouldn't do great against most of the enemies we face, but it would be an upgrade at the least. And after some trial and error, I finally get the sword and decide it's time to leave. Switching to green spawn, we end up at the edge of our not so jungle looking jungle, as some of the seeds, I'm not sure which ones, cause the jungle and glowing mushroom biomes to switch. This would be a problem we would see the consequences of later. And while I'm here, I spot a golden opportunity with this tree. We have access to wood. After getting full platinum armor, tools, and tons of gear, we have our first source of wood to use, which is a huge step in progress as we can now get NPC housing set up. Moving forward, I spot a teleporter and decide it was worth seeing where it went, and while it led to many good things, it also led to death. Twice. Collecting what was there, I get a Hellwing bow from a chest, which would be my best weapon for a bit. Oh, and let's die a third time for good measure. Struggling to survive, I dragged through and managed to get the life crystal I had seen before dying to the teleporter, but guess I forgot about the other one. Finding what I thought was a decent farming spot, I decided to try farming out spider fangs for a better summon and spider armor, which I wouldn't have even been able to make due to a lack of a hard mode anvil, but it didn't matter as I would die anyways. Dying one last time, I decided I had enough of that area and moved on to blue spawn. Here I was met with a lot. A life crystal, a death, another death, a mana crystal, a life crystal, another life crystal, and one more life crystal, finally getting enough to duplicate and max out our health for the time being. Now with 4 times the health, I get more ambitious and find the dungeon, spotting a bunch of chests outside of it that I hope to find something good inside. However, a combination of low light, drowning, and spikes, it's a bit of a struggle. Heading back to try again, I spot some chests I missed before, and thank god I did. In here I found the Spectre Argles. While I would have liked them earlier while hunting for some life crystals, they are still extremely helpful in all cases. Satisfied with what I found here, I decided to move on to the yellow spawn. I duplicate some presents to get the food that they drop, but considering I had found Slush, the Extractinator, Spectre Goggles, wood, and life crystals, I was really just exploring to explore. It's at this point where I'm going to be cutting out a lot of deaths and unnecessary parts, as it was just me searching and finding nothing. And eventually, I realized I was wasting my time as I hadn't set up NPC housing to get the NPCs I needed. So I quickly set up some cheap housing, mostly because it's space efficient. After doing so, I go back to exploring, where I find probably one of the most, if not the most important thing in this run, the Shimmer. In any Terraria challenge like Skyblock or tool restrictions and such, the Shimmer ends up being the solution to many of the problems. And here, it solves many of our problems. It gives us access to many resources we didn't have before, such as many herbs and fallen stars. After setting up a pylon, I get notified that the Eye of Cthulhu is about to spawn, so I head back home and get ready by setting up some platforms, getting out a mini shark, and getting some explosive bullets. It's a bit overkill, but I wanted to make sure I won. With the Eye of Cthulhu spawning, I really had no worries. I had the same armor as I usually would, I had a better weapon than usual, and much better ammo than usual, so I had no doubt it would be easy. With the Eye of Cthulhu down, I went back to the Shimmer to go back to what I was doing before. I quickly maxed out my mana and chucked in a life and mana crystal for both the Arcane Crystal and Vital Crystal. Then I went searching for any items I could decraft into new materials. I shimmered the Suspicious Eye for lens, gems and ores to make sure I had all of them, Jester Arrows for fallen stars, recalls for dayblooms and specular fish, water bottles for bottles, the bottles for glass, and the glass for sand. And with all that, a goblin army decided to show up. Now, with my current setup, I knew this would be pretty bad. Dealing with the hard mode goblin army with platinum armor, a Hellwing bow, and a mini shark for weapons, and a bunch of pre-hard mode accessories, in master mode, well, to say the least, it definitely wouldn't be easy. Looking at the goblin army, there are only 5 possible drops, with 3 hard mode exclusive ones dropped by the goblin warlock, and these were the ones that I was looking for. Getting something like the Shadowflame bow would be able to keep me on par with many of the enemies I've been facing. Of the 3 hard mode drops, I wanted the Shadowflame knife the most, as I don't have the best setup for magic, and I'm not a huge fan of the Shadowflame bow. But I would take any of the 3. The only problem is actually getting them. To get these weapons I have to kill the Goblin Warlock, the hard mode exclusive Goblin Army enemy, and comparing her to our last enemy, the Eye of Cthulhu, she has a lot more health, over 2 times the defense, and over 5 times the damage, despite not even having a boss bar. This would be pretty difficult. Now, thankfully, clearing out the goblins for the event was not too bad, but killing a Goblin Warlock was very difficult. I was doing 1 to 5 damage a shot, while she was doing like 100 a shot. It felt like a pretty unfair fight. But after almost 7 minutes of fighting, we finally killed one, getting the Shadow Flame bow. I tried to kill more in hopes of finding the Shadow Flame knife, but got no luck. After that was done, I began my search for the Goblin Tinkerer. In the process, I found a Mimic and killed it for the cross necklace, which is one of my favorite accessories for this stage of the game. Soon after, I decided to use a Hunter Potion and found him not long after. I quickly bought the rocket boots in Tinkerer's workshop before heading home to reforge my gear. I made fairy boots for the time being and reforged it all, then made some shine and archery potions. With my new-ish gear, I went to the Corruption to farm up some Cursed Flames and Souls of Night as I planned to get the Cursed Flames Spell Tome. Now, I know I said I didn't have the best setup for magic, which is true, but remembering my last run, this weapon was very strong, so I wanted to get it to try and kit myself out. After getting what I needed, I went back home and decided to fight King Slime. There wasn't anything I was looking for from him, but one of the slimes did drop a bladed glove, which was fun, but not the most useful due to its range limitations. I then crafted the Cursed Flames and reforged it before farming Crimson and Corruption Mimics. Since I was on a drunk world, it would change between the two every day. I was mostly looking for Flesh Knuckles and the Clinger Staff, but looking back, I probably should have considered the Life Drain as it would have been pretty good for the Destroyer. I kept exploring, hoping to find a Chlorified Extractinator to avoid fishing, which I was kind of dreading. But after failing to find anything, I finally gave in to the inevitable and started fishing. While doing so, the Traveling Merchant decided to show up, so I disposed of him as needed and shimmered his hat. I then went back to fishing, which I was very excited for. After finally getting enough Pearlwood crates to duplicate, I opened a ton to get all their drops, giving me some new potions and access to the first set of hard mode ores. I shimmered all the new potions for herbs and other materials, then crafted all the potions I could along with a set of palladium armor and a pickaxe. Now with access to obsidian skins, I was finally able to travel through hell and found nothing of importance. But after returning home, I saw that the Traveling Merchant returned and was selling the orange Zappinator. I decided to give it a shot as I never really used the weapon in any of my runs, and I thought it was a good time to try it. Exploring some more, I found the dungeon again, and decided to test something I thought I heard, being that you could enter the dungeon before killing Skeletron. I was quickly informed that I had not heard that, and knew I had to kill Skeletron as usual, which shouldn't be too big of a deal. It is officially day 2. I repeat, day 2. We are 5 hours into the run, about. I have palladium armor. I have frostbark boots. I've done Eye of Cthulhu and King Slime. We did get the Goblin Tinkerer. He is now dead. I actually don't remember why he's dead. Oh yeah, I killed all the NPCs. I'm going to today hopefully do Wall of Flesh, Skeletron, maybe get Mythical Crates to upgrade to Orichalcum. I want Souls of Light to be duplicated. I want Rotten Chunks to be duplicated, Vertebrae. A lot. So that's the goal. With my goals set for the day, I decided to just go for it. First, I wanted to beat the Wall of Flesh, as I now had solid armor, weapons, and most importantly, obsidian skins and flipper potions. So I went down to hell, boosted the spawn rates, and farmed for a Guy Voodoo doll. After a surprisingly long time, likely due to many spawn locations being blocked by the lava, I was finally able to kill a voodoo demon. With that done, I made a Hellevator as I hadn't done that yet, and spawned the Wall of Flesh. Since I had all hard mode armor and weapons, I didn't expect it to be a challenge, so I decided to experiment a bit with the Zappinator. And this kinda just shows the potential this weapon has with the right luck, as it was able to do thousands in a hit or two on occasion. With that done, I didn't bother duplicating the bags as none of the weapons interested me, and I could duplicate the emblem before shimmering it to get all of them. I quickly fought the Eater of Worlds to get the Worm Scarf, but that was all I cared about. I tried to fight the Brain of Cthulhu as well, but with the Crimson being flooded, the blood jellies overwhelmed me and I ended up dying, so I just decided to skip it. There wasn't anything I really cared about from the Brain, mostly just thought it would be easy. After taking a painful amount of time to find the dungeon entrance, I set up a small arena and spawned Skeletron. Yo, the possessed armors are gonna kill me. Wait, what the hell? I am in fact going to die. Oh my god. The other enemies. Oh, never mind. And that's why we use Zappinator. And if you didn't catch that, the Zappinator did a casual 7,500 damage to Skeletron, killing him before I could even kill an arm. Which is... it's absurd. With Skeletron dead, I went into the dungeon to get a Cobalt Shield, Bones, the Mechanic, a Bewitching Table, and the Alchemy Station. but after searching what I assumed was every single chest in the dungeon, I couldn't find the cobalt shield and resorted to fishing. If you didn't know, fishing in the dungeon lets you get golden lockboxes, which can be opened with a golden key and gives random loot from the locked dungeon chest. Since I couldn't find a cobalt shield normally, this was my only way of getting it. While I would have considered just going without one to avoid fishing, last run I tried to do the mechs without knockback immunity and it led to some of the most frustrating mech fights I've ever had to deal with, so I decided it was worth the time to get it. While looking for the lockboxes, I got enough mithril crates to duplicate, but decided to wait to fully open a bunch. I finally fish up a stockade crate and open it for the golden lockbox, and decided to test my luck by opening it before saving to duplicate them. I think I'm greedy. Please. Yes! I then opened up a bunch of mithril crates for any new items and the second tier of hardwood ores. So with that out of the way, I was fully set on going for the mech bosses. First, I went down to the corruption to farm up some rotten chunks, eventually finding an actually decent strategy that is realistically only viable because of journey mode. After getting enough to duplicate, I would have access to an infinite amount of all 3 mech spawners, so I started work on an arena. Usually it wouldn't take too long as you could just place some platforms at the surface, but since I don't have a surface, or any large open area for that matter, I had to do a lot of digging and demolition to clear out the space. I also, for some reason, thought I would make an arena with walls as I never really do that and thought it would look cool. And that was quite the price to pay. I was going to regret this decision. One reason being, it was no small area, so it took a decent amount of time just to place them all. And the second reason, well, we'll find out later. With the arena finished, I finally remembered that I got a cobalt shield, did some preparations, and spawned the destroyer. Usually upon entering hard mode, there are like 2 main priorities that at least I will put complete focus on. This being getting the hard mode ores and armor, and getting wings. Looking at our possible wing options at this stage, there are 6 actual wings, not counting fledgling wings, and 5 of them require souls of flight, which we can't actually get. So that leaves us with 2 options at this stage. Do fishing quests for the fin wings, or go without them until we get dev wings or the jetpack. As you could expect, I did not want to fish any more than I had to, so I decided to just go without them for the first few mech fights. After dying to the destroyer once, I killed him 3 times in order to duplicate the bags, and then opened way more than I really needed to, simply because I wanted cool looking dev wings. Don't judge me, they look cool. I made some hollowed armor, messed with my vanity, made a hollowed repeater, and then made the superstar shooter. Which, I am kind of ashamed to admit, I have literally never used this weapon. I'm not sure if I've even used the normal star shooter. Just never find myself wanting to collect the fallen stars, and also I'm not really inclined to play ranger. But since I decided this run I would try new things, I wanted to give it a shot. And you literally could never have guessed, it was like really, like, absurdly good and broken. Completely unaffected by the fact that I had infinite fallen stars, it shredded through Skeletron Prime and the twins. The twins, however, also kind of shredded through me, but we don't talk about that. So with the mechs defeated, I made the mechanical minecart upgrade and pickaxe axe before moving on to the next problem of the run. And I'll just let past me do the talking here. As long as, yes, the jungle grows restless. Now, there's a slight problem. I don't imagine I have talked about it in the video. This is my jungle. It's not very jungly. You see there's the temple, there's beehives. It is in fact a giant mushroom biome. If you look over, for example, here, nope, yes. That's a jungle. This is actually a glowing mushroom biome. This is a glowing mushroom biome. That's a glowing mushroom biome. They get flipped. So, I have to wait for the steampunker. And there was quite a lot of time to kill, because for some reason, in both this world and my last, the steampunker never wanted to move in. While passing the time, I killed the queen bee, died to queen slime, mined chlorophyte, and even did some fishing quests. For entertainment. I did some exploring of the small jungle biomes I had, spawning Plantera just because I could, and dying. I got my revenge on the Brain of Cthulhu, nuked the jungle? Mushroom biome? Mungle? I'm just gonna call it the jungle. Nuked the jungle for space for an arena, made some housing for a pylon, eventually prepared for the worst case scenario and farmed up jungle grass seeds and just planted them in my arena, praying it would magically overtake the mushroom biome, and then attempting to resort to lava fishing. Which, I don't know why I was even thinking of that, maybe for inferno potions. But as I began that journey, the steampunker decided to finally show up, after an hour and a half of waiting. So I bought the contaminator, fixed my jungle biome to be normal, and then fought the old one's army. I didn't have any bulbs in my arena yet, so I needed to kill a little more time. I kept exploring my tiny jungle biome, scaring off any potential planteras, and eventually a bulb did grow in my arena. But I decided that I wanted 500 health. I thought all I needed was 10 life fruit, then I would duplicate it and that's that. And while I don't know exactly how long it took, as I likely found my first one randomly in one of the tiny biomes, and I don't feel like skimming through a 7.5 hour recording for this, it was at least 1.5 hours purely of searching for life fruit, intending to do literally nothing but that. But eventually with an ageless fruit consumed and more life fruit to use, I got to 500 health finally. And with one Plantera bulb sitting in my arena, I finally spawned Plantera after waiting way too long. I'm not going to drag it out, this fight was easy. I had really strong weapons and I've done this fight way too many times. But don't take this wrong, as I am glad it's easy. As in the amount of time it took me to find the life fruit, I didn't get a single new bulb in my jungle. One of the major issues that I'm assuming is causing the lack of life fruit and bulbs is the fact that the world is all planetoid, so there is a lack of actually valid surface for them to spawn on. Now in my mind, I didn't think this would be that big of a deal, but I guess you just never notice how important having a large amount of valid spawn points for those things is. And unfortunately for me, I wanted the Venus Magnum as I actually liked that weapon a lot, which meant I needed to kill Plantera 2 more times. And it is times like these that I wish this game had a normal consumable Plantera summon, because I knew the game wasn't planning on being nice. But I decided to get off the game for the time being. And then I killed Plantera the next time I got on. Unfortunately, I wasn't recording, so you only get me right after I killed her. And this also means the amount of time I spent waiting for the Plantera bulb to spawn is something I don't know. But it was probably a decent amount. But getting the third one to spawn, well, I have a relative idea. Considering I played a 40-minute chess game while waiting for it to spawn. And don't judge anything in this game, you chess nerds. No disrespect, but this is like maybe my third ever chess game, so like let me be. After chess, I decided to fight the Torch God. I guess in some way it might have helped since luck boosts crit chance. Then I farmed King Slime, hoping to get a jungle key since I kinda wanted to use the Piranha gun. But I never ended up getting it before a bulb spawned. I quickly killed the third Plantera and duped the bags to get the Venus Magnum. Then I tried my absolute hardest to make it through the Jungle Temple. After many, many deaths, I eventually made it and summoned Golem. Now, I'm no expert, but I know for a fact that drowning the Golem is the best strat you can do. Well, second to a Warmth Potion at the least. After Golem, I just kept up the momentum and moved on to the Cultist, and at this point I had a trick up my sleeve. The Cultist fight itself was not that big of a deal. I'm very used to all the attacks, and combining that with the Chlorophyte bullets to make sure I wasn't missing, it made for a simple fight. But now that I had an Ancient Manipulator, I had access to something weird. I skipped past it earlier, but at one point I went to the Shimmer and shimmered some Vortex and Stardust furniture I'd found, which gave me Vortex and Stardust fragments. Now it really isn't much of a skip, but I just thought it was cool that I had post-pillar weapons pre-pillars. Realistically, it didn't help that much. It would be a lie to say it didn't at all, but it would have been fine if I didn't do this. I switched to Shroomite armor, and other than the weird spawn locations of the pillars, there isn't anything interesting about them. Other than my extremely hot take. The pillars are actually kind of fun. Just my opinion though, don't get angry. And with the pillars down, I stood in my arena waiting to end the challenge. But the game decided I had one more problem to overcome. Yep. Oh my god, I can't see him. Okay, well, this arena's not gonna be ideal. If you didn't know this, Moonlord sits in the background of the game, which I guess is pretty obvious, but something that I usually don't take into account is that he sits behind not only blocks, but walls. Meaning that the arena I spent so long filling with walls was just making the fight a guessing game as to what is happening. Now, I know it might sound dumb that I didn't think of this, but when I fight Moonlord, I don't build an underground arena like this. I will make like a skybridge or just use the soaring insignia and no arena. It's been a good while since I fought pre-Johnny Zen Moonlord where sitting in a box was the best strat, so the concept of Moonlord sitting behind walls never occurred to me. So what was I gonna do? Well, the first thought may be that I would have to take down the walls in my arena. But I didn't want to do that, so I took the easy route. I moved over to my Plantera arena. Now there still are walls, but not nearly as many. So I'll clear out a decent space so that I could actually see the boss, and kept going with my attempts. But a combination of me having a major skill issue and me never actually playing Ranger, I was struggling. So instead of doing what I usually do and forcing myself to do the same thing over and over again until it works, I went to the dungeon to get the Tabby and Black Belt and replace my Shield of Cthulhu with the Master Ninja gear for a better dash and dodge. And after a few more attempts, I finally got good and beat the Moonlord, ending the run. With the run done, I just wanted to say a few things. Once again, this is no extreme challenge, and I don't want you to take it as such. Sure, it wasn't as easy as your normal run, but compared to the hours and hours of grinding and extreme limitations of things like Skyblock, this is nothing. I would actually recommend trying it to anyone who has played a lot of the normal game and wants something new. I was inspired by a lot of challenge videos from people like Chief Logan, Wanda Sparking, and Frostburn, who have spent countless hours trying insane challenges, and to think I am trying to make a video like theirs for my slightly different type of run, it feels like I'm really trashing on the idea of challenge runs, which I'm not. I just wanted to try something that would require strategies I'm not used to and thought it would be interesting to share. So please, go to their channels and support them. I'll have my favorite videos of theirs linked in the description. I highly recommend you watch them when you get the chance. And with that said, I want to thank you for watching if you're still here. See ya.